Have you ever been at the shops and you need to remember, let's say, five items, and then you can remember three, but then the other one or two just keep evading you, and you keep having to check your phone, and you're wondering, how does this not happen to doctors? How do they have this system in their head where they can just remember everything and they don't have these episodes where things just slip from your mind? And today I'm going to discuss the main thing that's emphasized constantly in medicine, but is very rarely talked about outside medical circles. But I think this can help you to revolutionize the way you learn information and remember information as well. And there's three components that I'd like to discuss today. The first thing is systematic thinking. So doctors always break things down into systems. They have ways of memorizing various specific pieces of information categorized in general pieces of information. And so the point of systematic thinking is you come up with a bunch of categories. And for example, in the medical setting, that might be the different systems of the body. You have your head and neck, the chest, maybe a cardiovascular system, GI system, genitourinary system. And then within those categories, then you can have your subcategory information that you learn. So if you want to learn the causes of chest pain, you can think, well, there are cardiac causes of chest pain, respiratory causes of chest pain, abdominal, maybe there's some abdominal causes of chest pain, skin causes, etc. And then you can go in each of those categories and then branch out further options. Oh, well, in terms of cardiac causes of chest pain, you can have heart attacks, you can have pericarditis, etc. So thinking in systems will help you memorize things. Then we have association. Try to associate various pieces of information with other pieces of information from other topics. Maybe you're learning about condition in the chest, but it reminds you of something that you learned with regard to the abdomen. And even better is associating things from different fields. If you can associate something you're learning in engineering with something you learned from psychology or school or high school biology, any association will strengthen the neural pathways, which is Hebbian theory. And then another thing that's worthwhile mentioning is chunking, which is thinking about how you memorize your own phone number, right? You don't memorize it as 04645432. It's always in a set of four, and then a set of three, and then a set of three. And it's weird when people present their numbers in a different way. Learning in chunks of 4, 3, and 3 is easier than one big chunk of 10. And so the idea is when you have a big topic, split it up into these chunks, into these categories. And then within the categories, it's a lot easier to remember these three things. Okay. So how can we put that all together in an example? Let's say we want to learn the reversible causes of cardiac arrest. And in medicine, there's a nice way of splitting them up, which is the four H's and the four T's. So four H's are hypothermia, hypoxia, hyperkalemia, hypovolemia. So these four categories are one cause of reversible cardiac arrest, and then you have your four T's as well: thrombosis, tamponade, tension pneumothorax, and toxins. Now, here's my issue with this. In my experience, anytime you learn more than more than three things in a list, it's hard to remember. So when I recite the four H's and the four T's, I might get three, but I'll always miss one. And so anything that has more than three terms, I then try and apply a system. Okay, so what we have here, we've split up 8 things into 2 categories, but anything with 4 or more terms, we want a system, and it's easier if you always learn them in a set order. So order is important. You know, if I took your phone number and I jumbled up the digits, then it would be so much harder to remember even those numbers that were in it. And order is important. And you can incorporate a system into your order. So let's say we want to memorize the 4 H's. Hypothermia. We can think of temperature as your head. When you feel feverish, you measure the temperature here. When you feel feverish, the temperature is here. And then you can think after the head, we'll go down the body into the lungs. Lungs, you're thinking about oxygen. Then down the body again, kidneys. And then you're thinking about maybe potassium. And then down to the legs, where you're thinking about volume, hypovolemia. Even though if you have hypervolemia, it would manifest in the legs, you can still think of a system going head, chest, abdomen, legs. And then you'll always remember it in that order, and you're much less likely to forget something. The same thing can be done with the 4Ts. Thrombosis. Let's imagine we're inside the vessels of the heart and they've been blocked off. Then we go out a bit. We go out to the heart and we're thinking about tamponade. Then we go out a bit more. We're going to the lungs and we're thinking about tension pneumothorax. And we go out a bit more into the peripheries where we're thinking about toxins and the bloodstream. Now, I've reordered these based on a system that works for me. So whenever you have a list to learn, think about how you can categorize it, how you can rearrange the terms that make sense in a list, and memorizing it in an order is always going to be more effective when it comes to recall down the line than splitting it up into just randomly trying to remember four terms. I think 3 terms is okay, but think about all the medical things, doctors ABC, ABCDE of the primary survey. They all have an order implied and they all are in categories. This applies to non-medical areas too. And so maybe when you go into the supermarket, you might want to remember everything by saying, fats, proteins, and carbs, and how can you split things up into those categories. So if you apply this, you will have better retention, faster recall, and you'll be more efficient in how you apply your memory, retention, and recall into your study habits.
83% of people who watch these videos regularly do not subscribe. If you've ever enjoyed my videos, could you please do me a big favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the better the video gets. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you next time.